Hey everyone, this is Lee from Stoneside. Today I want to talk about a couple ways that you might turn a spare room into a sort of digital studio. And you can do whatever you want in your digital studio. Maybe you're doing podcasts, maybe you're recording your singing, maybe you're Twitch streaming, maybe you're recording EDM or guitar, or maybe you're doing something more outside the box. Maybe you're creating this yoga studio and you want to give people tutorials, or maybe you've got your GoPro out and you've done some mountain biking and now you want to do some post-production. Any of these things and so many more can be part of your home studio. So we're going to go through a couple of ideas and how, if I was setting up a studio for this particular function, how I would do it. So I've been a yogi for a very long time. I started out with my mom when I was 12 years old and now I'm almost 30, so been through a ton of yoga mats, lots of different styles of yoga, and I have to say I've settled on the Lifeform yoga mat. I used to really love the Lululemon yoga mats because they were super duper sticky, no matter how much you sweat, you were absolutely just glued to the mat. However, their newer iterations, I found that maybe their quality has suffered a little bit over time, and the Lifeform is really fantastic. They call it the Warrior Grip mat, and I mean, you are absolutely just glued to that mat. So if you're thinking about starting up yoga and you're a little worried about slipping and sliding, I would suggest this mat. I know a lot of people are a fan of the Manduka mats, but I found that thing like an ice rink. I just slipped right off, hands gone. So yeah, Lifeform mat, definitely. Now that you've got your perfect yoga mat, you have to decide how you're going to record yourself, how you're going to capture sound, and things like that. So I went with a Blue microphone. These are absolutely wonderful. Their fidelity is great, and you can find them at a reasonable price point. For video, I really like to use the GoPros. They can record in 4K and you can turn them into a webcam type of situation using the Elgato Camlink 4K. So this just means instead of writing to an SD card, you write directly to your computer. And we'll get into some of the programs that you can use for different things as well a little later on. One thing I'll mention about the GoPros is if you get a GoPro 5 or later, they've made that GoPro a little more waterproof without the external casing. So what that basically ends up doing is making the audio pretty bad. So you really do need that external microphone if you're going to go this direction. So now that you have your hardware sorted out, it's time to have some fun. So whether you're doing that yoga tutorial or something else involving video and audio, there's a lot of overlap between the free materials that you can use to accomplish this. So for audio, if you're just doing audio, you can use something called Audacity. And this is a free program. It monitors your sound levels. You can cut the audio up any way you want. And it's a very simple program. So that might be good just for podcasts. And, not like the Joe Rogan podcast where he's got the video going and the audio. This would just be audio. If you want to start integrating video into your setup, you can use something called OBS Studio. And this is great for recording video, and I wouldn't really recommend using this for post-production editing just because the capabilities aren't really there. But it's great for capturing your raw video, and it can be used for streaming. So if you're a Twitch streamer and you're just starting out, this could be a great program for you to start that process and start gaining some followers, things like that. When you're happy with the raw video you've collected, it's time for post-production. So this is where things like color correction, audio level adjustments, cutting up those video segments to make a cohesive story, things like that happen. And the program I like to use for this is an open source program called DaVinci Resolve, and you can download it online for free. It's a fantastic program, and there's a ton of tutorials out there to help you get started. I really like Isaac Jackson's YouTube channel. He's a filmmaker and he has a ton of really great tips to get you started. If you're more into the music production side of things, it's super easy to get started, and then you can continue layering on new tools and programs to help you advance. So after you've got some speakers and an audio input, the next thing is programs. So if you're thinking you want to do something in the electronic world, something like Ableton Live is absolutely the go-to. So this is the program where you would input all of your sounds. Maybe you've played the piano or the guitar and you want to use that, or you want to use some presets. So if you want to use presets, there's something called Nexus, and that's just basically a library of preset sounds. You can find the most beautiful violin or some drum lines, anything you want. And Nexus can be a little expensive, but if you get the starter pack, you can add on whatever expansions you want, and it really cuts down on the price. And for Ableton Live, same sort of thing. You can get their full-blown platform, and it'll, cost you a hefty price. But if you use their light version, it can get you going, and you can decide if you want to continue on doing that, or if maybe it's not for you and then you haven't sunk all of this money into this platform. In a similar vein, maybe you want to try out DJing. So this is mainly just mixing tracks together rather than creating your own. So you're starting out with an Ellie Goulding track, 30 seconds later, maybe you want a Skrillex track, and you have to figure out how to mix those two things together seamlessly. And there's a program called Serato, which again, they have a live version to get you started, and that just helps you place the tracks, and you can actually record your mixings. And the way that you would mix those two things together is with a controller. So that's something you would see lots of DJs have, lots of musicians have nowadays. It looks like there's two turntables, but not really, and there's some buttons. This is called a controller. And Pioneer makes some of the absolute best controllers on the market. And they have a ton of different levels, so you don't have to get the giant one where there's 4 inputs and all this stuff. Just start out with something simple to figure out if you like it, and you can always upgrade. The last piece of the puzzle here is making sure that your fidelity is great on your sound. So you don't want a lot of hard surfaces, lots of sound bouncing off of your walls and your windows, and there are a few simple ways that you can mitigate that. So for your walls, there are these wall panels. If you think of, an artist in a professional studio, they have that sort of foam on the wall. That's like the crazy intense version of a panel, and you can get a lighter version for your home. And that'll really make sure that the sounds aren't getting distorted as they move around your room. And the last piece of this, and it seems small, but it's very important, is you want to make sure that your windows aren't doing that as well. So you want to make sure that the glass is no longer bouncing the sound off of them. And cellular shades are a great way to get rid of that risk. So no matter what you've got going on in your home studio, these are some simple tools, lots of different options, and again, there are infinite ways that you can put together a studio, but this is something that I would do if I were doing this. For more ideas on how window coverings can be the last piece of your puzzle, head over to our idea gallery on www.stoneside.com.